On a harsh, snowy night, in the lobby of a high-end hotel, a hard-working black front desk clerk spotted a homeless veteran shivering outside the door. Knowing he could be fired, he didn't hesitate to let the man in for shelter. His small act of kindness was soon discovered by the manager, and he was immediately terminated. But no one expected that a guest had recorded the entire moment, and that the video would change his life forever. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. The wind screamed against the glass doors of the hotel like it was trying to claw its way in. Snow swirled under the parking lot lights, blinding white and endless. Inside the Maple Ridge Inn, things were still. A dim yellow glow hummed over the lobby's polished floors, and the ticking of the wall clock echoed in the emptiness. Marcus Johnson sat behind the front desk, his elbows resting on a stained leather logbook. He flipped the pages even though he had nothing to write. The hotel was nearly empty tonight. Only 4 rooms checked in before the storm buried the roads. The news said it would be the worst snowstorm in a decade. Marcus believed it. He glanced at the clock again. 12:30. His shift wouldn't end until morning. Marcus was 32, tall, lean, with quiet eyes and a steady posture. His skin was a smooth, deep brown, and his voice, when he spoke, was calm, almost careful. He wore the hotel uniform like armor. Navy blazer, silver name tag, white shirt buttoned to the top. His mother taught him early, always dress like you matter, even when they act like you don't. She was sick now. Heart failure. Medicaid covered some of it, but not enough. That's why he took this night job, even after finishing community college, even after applying to office jobs that never called back. A gust of wind slammed against the glass again, louder this time. Marcus looked up. Through the snow, a figure was trudging toward the entrance. He stood slowly, narrowed his eyes. The man was hunched over, both hands gripping the straps of a worn-out duffel bag. His coat was army green, frayed at the sleeves and covered in snow. He moved like every step was a fight. Marcus stepped around the desk and walked to the doors. The man tried to pull one open, but the wind slammed it shut again. Marcus pushed it open for him. The man stumbled inside with a grunt. His boots left watery tracks on the tile. He looked up at Marcus, blinking through frozen eyelashes. "Thank you, son," he said, voice rough. "Just needed to get out of that wind." Marcus nodded, eyeing him closely. The man's cheeks were raw, nose red, beard thick with frost. He smelled like cold metal and damp wool. Probably late 60s or early 70s. He carried himself like someone who had once stood tall but hadn't had reason to in a long time. "I'm not looking for a room," the man added quickly. "Just a warm spot, just for a little while. Then I'll be gone." Marcus didn't answer right away. The front desk training manual was clear. No loitering, no unauthorized guests in the lobby, no exceptions. But the man's hands were trembling. His lips were purple. Marcus had seen hypothermia before, once during his old security job. This man didn't need rules, he needed warmth. "Over there," Marcus said, nodding toward a bench tucked behind a large potted plant near the vending machines. "It's out of view from the front, just rest. I'll bring you something warm." The man looked like he might cry. He nodded quickly and shuffled toward the bench. Marcus turned back toward the front desk, his heart hammering harder than it should. "What am I doing?" He walked to the small employee break room, opened the cabinet, 1 paper cup left. 1 packet of sugar, no cream. He poured coffee from the half-empty pot, carried it out carefully. The man was already seated, hunched over, holding his bag close to his chest. Marcus knelt beside him. "Here," he said, handing over the coffee. The man took it with both hands, nodding again. "God bless you, son. Ain't many like you left." Marcus smiled faintly. "What's your name?" Frank Carson, Vietnam, 1969. Marcus didn't ask for more. He didn't need to. "I'm Marcus." Frank raised the cup to his lips, blew on it, took a careful sip. "I'll be out of your hair soon," he murmured. "No rush," Marcus said. "Just rest. Weather's not letting up any time soon." Marcus stood, returned to the front desk. He pulled up the camera feed. The angle didn't catch the bench. That was good. He sat back down, tried to look busy. But his hands were stiff, his chest tight. The hotel was silent again, but the air felt heavier. He didn't know it yet, but something had shifted. One small act, one warm cup of coffee, one pair of trembling hands. And outside, the storm kept howling. The soft hum of the vending machine filled the silence in the lobby. Marcus tried to keep his eyes on the screen in front of him, pretending to check reservation records. But his attention kept drifting back to Frank. The old man sat quietly, sipping the last of his coffee, his shoulders finally relaxed. The storm outside hadn't eased. If anything, the wind sounded meaner now, more impatient. Marcus glanced at the clock. It was nearly 1. Most nights at this hour the hotel was like a tomb. Just him, a cleaning crew upstairs, and the distant murmur of an old boiler. But tonight there was movement. The elevator light dinged and the doors slid open behind him. He turned. Mr. Everett stepped out. Marcus's stomach dropped. The night manager was early 50s, white, tall, with a rigid spine and a clipped gait like someone who had spent too long giving orders no one questioned. His black suit was spotless, tie knotted high, as if he dressed each shift to remind people he still had control, even during a snowstorm. His eyes scanned the lobby and narrowed within seconds. "What's going on here?" Marcus stood slowly, smoothing his blazer. "Sir?" Everett's gaze snapped to the bench. "Who is that?" Marcus didn't flinch. "His name is Frank. He came in out of the storm. He's a veteran. I let him sit down for a while to warm up." Everett's face froze. "He's not a guest." "No, sir." "Then he shouldn't be here." Marcus kept his voice level. "With respect, it's below freezing. The roads are shut down. He wasn't asking for a room, just shelter." Everett stepped forward, his tone turning cold. "This is not a shelter, it's a business. We don't let unauthorized people into the lobby, you know that." "I do," Marcus replied. "But I couldn't leave him outside, he could have died." "That is not your call." Marcus didn't move. "Then whose is it? Because if I'd left him out there, I'd be watching the news tomorrow morning, wondering if I could have stopped another statistic." Everett's jaw clenched. He walked past Marcus toward Frank, who was now slowly trying to get to his feet. "I'll go," Frank said quietly, his voice strained, tired. "Didn't mean to cause trouble." "You're not in trouble," Marcus said, taking a step toward him. Everett held up a hand. "Mr. Carson, you need to leave immediately. This is private property." Frank nodded, eyes downcast. He reached for his bag, knees shaking. Marcus stepped between them. "He's not in shape to go out there, not in this storm. Give him an hour, that's all I ask." Everett's voice rose, sharp and final. "You're done here." Marcus blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're relieved of duty. Turn in your badge. I'll notify HR in the morning." "You're firing me." "I'm enforcing policy. For letting a man not freeze to death." Everett turned, walking back toward the elevator. "I won't argue with someone who doesn't understand liability." Marcus stood there, pulse thudding in his ears. He could feel the heat in his chest, the kind that comes not from fear, but from being pushed too far, too fast. He wanted to shout, to slam his fist on the desk, to ask Everett what kind of man throws someone into the snow just to prove a point. Frank reached for his arm. "Let it go, son. Ain't worth it." But Marcus didn't let go of anything. He walked over to Frank, lifted the duffel bag for him, and wrapped an arm around his shoulders. "Come on. We'll wait in the staff area. No cameras back there." Everett turned. "If you escort him anywhere else on this property, I'll call the police." Marcus stared at him. "Do it." Silence. Upstairs there was a faint noise, a creak on the mezzanine. Neither man noticed the guest standing quietly at the railing, phone held in both hands. The recording had already begun. And as Marcus helped Frank to the door, holding it against the fury of the snow outside, Everett stayed behind, breathing heavy, jaw locked. He thought the story ended there, but it hadn't even begun. The next morning, the snow still blanketed the town like a punishment. Power lines drooped with ice, streets were silent except for the hum of snowplows pushing through drifts. Inside a modest apartment on the west side, Marcus sat at his mother's kitchen table, staring at a mug of tea he hadn't touched. His coat was still damp, and his hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from cold but from what had happened. His mother, Gloria Johnson, moved slowly behind him, wearing her thickest cardigan and a calm expression she didn't really feel. "You're not a criminal, Marcus," she said gently, setting a plate of toast in front of him. "You did what was right." "I lost my job, Mama," Marcus replied, voice low. "That was our rent." She sat across from him and reached for his hand. "Maybe what you lost wasn't worth keeping." He didn't answer. He couldn't. Not when every part of him was still burning from the way Mr. Everett looked at him, like a problem to be dealt with. Not when Frank had disappeared into the storm, no coat, no address, just gone. Marcus had tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Frank's hunched figure stepping back into the snow, heard Everett's voice telling him he was done, felt the sick twist in his gut when he realized none of it had mattered to them. At 9 o'clock, Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. A few seconds later, it buzzed again. Then again. Then a text came in. "You're on Twitter." Marcus frowned. He opened the message. It was a link. He clicked it. And everything changed. The video was less than 2 minutes long. It started with Marcus helping Frank to the couch, handing him the coffee, kneeling beside him. The shot was shaky but clear enough. The woman filming had stayed hidden behind the railing upstairs, recording without a sound. Marcus had no idea she had even been there. Then Everett entered. The audio wasn't perfect, but his words rang out clean. "You're relieved of duty. I'm enforcing policy. This is not a shelter." The video ended with Marcus lifting Frank's bag, arm around the old man's shoulder, leading him to the door while Everett threatened to call the police. The caption read, "This man was fired for helping a veteran during a snowstorm. Are rules really more important than humanity?" By 10 a.m., the video had over 70,000 views. By noon, it passed 200,000. By evening, it was on national news. Marcus sat frozen on the couch as a news anchor's voice played over a screenshot of his face. "Outrage is growing after a hotel employee was reportedly fired for allowing a homeless veteran to escape a deadly snowstorm." They even found Frank's name, Frank Carson, and confirmed his service in Vietnam, a retired Marine, honorably discharged, no family. People were furious. Comments poured in by the second. "This man deserves a medal, not a pink slip. Shame on that hotel. Where is Frank Carson now? Let's find him." The hotel, caught off guard by the backlash, posted a short statement. "We are aware of the incident involving an employee and are conducting a full internal review." But it was too late. Hashtags trended. Journalists called. Someone created a GoFundMe for Marcus. It raised $5,000 in 4 hours. And then came the email that made him pause. Subject line, "We saw what you did. We want to talk." It was from Hope Rise Foundation, a national nonprofit focused on veteran housing and crisis intervention. They didn't just want to thank him. They wanted to offer him a position. Marcus stared at the screen, not moving, not breathing. His mother stood behind him, hand on his shoulder. "They saw you, baby. They finally saw you." And in that moment, for the first time since he stepped out into the snow with Frank, Marcus allowed himself to feel it. Not fear, not anger, but something else. Something warmer. Hope. Marcus sat in the same chair for over an hour, staring at the email like it might vanish if he looked away. The apartment was quiet except for the slow drip of melting ice outside the window. His mother moved quietly in the kitchen, giving him space, knowing better than to ask questions too early. He read the message again. "We saw what you did. We'd like to speak with you about an opportunity at Hope Rise Foundation. We believe in turning action into change. If you're open, let's talk." He had heard of Hope Rise before, a nonprofit that built temporary housing for veterans, ran job placement programs, and lobbied for housing reform. They weren't some feel-good side project. They were serious, national, respected. The idea that they were reaching out to him, a night desk clerk who had just been fired, felt almost too big to touch. He didn't respond right away. Part of him didn't trust it. The world didn't just offer you a second chance wrapped in kindness. It usually came with a string or a catch, or a quiet humiliation waiting just under the surface. Still, he clicked. 2 hours later, his phone rang. "Monsieur Johnson, this is Camille Herrera. I'm the director of programs at Hope Rise. First, let me say, we saw the video. We saw you and what you did. It moved us." Her voice was clear, steady, professional but kind. Marcus's hand gripped the phone tighter. "I appreciate you saying that," he said carefully. "I imagine the last few days have been overwhelming," Camille continued. "But I won't waste your time. We're expanding our winter response initiative. We need someone with compassion and backbone, someone who doesn't wait for permission to do the right thing." Marcus said nothing. He could feel his heart beating faster, could hear the echo of Everett's voice in his head. "That is not your decision to make. We'd like to fly you to D.C., she said. "Talk in person, show you what we're working on. If it's a fit, we'll offer you a full-time role." "What kind of role?" Marcus asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Director of Community Engagement. You'd oversee partnerships, train hotel liaisons, develop crisis protocols for winter emergency shelters. It's a lot, I won't lie, but we think you have the heart for it." Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbow on the kitchen table. "Why me?" I was just trying to help someone." "That's exactly why. We have policies. You showed us purpose." He didn't answer right away. There was a lump in his throat that wouldn't move. "We'll handle travel," she added. "Take the night to think about it. Let me know in the morning." After the call ended, Marcus sat in silence. His mother finally spoke. "That was the woman from the email?" He nodded slowly. "Well," she said, "what did she say?" "She offered me a job," he said. "In D.C. Big one." Gloria raised an eyebrow. "You going?" "I don't know." She walked over and sat across from him, same way she did when he was 12 and afraid of disappointing everyone. Her voice was soft. "Baby, you think this storm only came to knock you down, but sometimes storms make things visible you'd never see in the sunlight." He looked at her, the corners of his mouth pulling upward slightly. "You always talk in riddles when you're trying not to cry." She laughed through her nose and wiped her cheek. "You helped that man, Marcus. You reminded people they still have a soul. You think that ain't worth something?" He paused. "What if I mess it up? What if I'm not what they think I am?" "You didn't do that for a camera. You didn't do that to be famous. You did it because it was right. That's all they need." He exhaled, long and heavy. The weight of doubt had been sitting on his chest since the moment Everett said the word "fired." But it was changing now. There was room to breathe. That night, he barely slept. He thought about Frank, where he might be, whether he saw the video, whether someone had taken him in. He thought about the front desk, the uniform, the silence. And he thought about what it meant to be useful again, not just behind a desk, but for something larger than himself. The next morning, he wrote Camille back. "Yes, I'd like to come." 2 days later, he boarded a plane for the first time in years. He wore a blazer that didn't quite fit and shoes that pinched, but he kept his head high. When he landed in D.C., a driver was waiting with his name on a card. At the Hope Rise headquarters, the staff greeted him like he belonged. Not like a charity case, not like a hero either. Just like someone who mattered. Camille met him in a modest conference room lined with photos of veterans and volunteers. "We've been looking for someone like you for a long time," she said, sliding a folder across the table. "Someone who knows what it means to see people." Inside the folder was an offer letter, salary, benefits, travel support, a clear mission. Marcus closed the folder and looked at her. "You really think one act like that means I'm qualified for all this?" "No," Camille replied. "But it tells me exactly who you are." He sighed, not because he felt ready, but because he finally believed maybe, just maybe, he was. 1 year later, the storm came again. Not the same storm, not the same hotel, but the same biting cold, the same warnings across local news. Severe winter conditions expected. Shelter in place. Stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. But this time something was different. Marcus Johnson stood at the front of a large conference hall in Washington, D.C., facing an audience of hundreds. Behind him, a screen displayed the words, "Winter Splash Initiative, 1 year later." The room was warm, filled with non-profit leaders, hotel partners, city officials, and volunteers from across the country. Some had flown in just that morning. Others had driven through sleet to be here. Marcus adjusted the microphone. His blazer fit better now. So did the roll. "When I was fired for letting a man sit inside a warm hotel lobby during a snowstorm," he began, "I didn't expect anyone to notice. I thought it would just be one more quiet injustice that disappeared into the night." He paused, looking out over the crowd. The room was silent. But someone did notice. A guest, a phone, a decision, and then a flood of people asking the same question. Why are we punishing compassion? A few heads nodded. Some in the crowd already knew the story. Others had only heard bits. Marcus continued. "Frank Carson, the veteran I helped that night, was found a week later by a local outreach team. He was taken to a shelter, given medical care, and reunited with a sister he hadn't seen in over 20 years. He's living in Colorado now. Says the weather's better." Soft laughter rippled through the audience. Marcus smiled. But here's what matters most. Because of one small act, and because of the voices that followed, we created something new. We partnered with over 600 hotels across 20 states. We built a hotline for emergency winter placements. We trained staff to act without fear of punishment. We rewrote the script. He stepped away from the mic for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. Then he turned to the side of the stage and nodded. A staff member opened the door. Frank Carson walked in slowly, cane in hand, wearing a dark gray coat and a bright yellow pin on his lapel that read, "Hope Lives Here." The room stood up in waves. Applause broke like thunder. Frank waved once and moved carefully to the stage, where Marcus helped him up the last step. Frank leaned into the mic, voice scratchy but strong. "I don't got much to say, 'cause Marcus already said it better than I ever could. But I'll say this. A year ago, I thought I was going to die in the snow. Now I'm standing here looking at people who made sure no one else has to feel like that again. That matters." He turned to Marcus, eyes glossy. "You saved more than me, son." Marcus didn't reply. He simply reached out, shook Frank's hand, and pulled him into a firm embrace. Cameras flashed. The applause returned, louder now, not just for Frank or Marcus, but for the idea that something had changed, and that it came from someone who once stood alone in a quiet lobby, choosing humanity over rules. Later that evening, Marcus stood by a window on the top floor of the foundation building, looking out at the snow beginning to fall again. Behind him, Camille stepped up with a glass of tea. "You pulled it off," she said. "I didn't pull off anything," Marcus replied. "People showed up, people listened." She tilted her head. "You gave them something worth listening to." He didn't argue. He just kept looking out at the snow. Somewhere out there, maybe tonight, someone else would open a door instead of turning someone away. Maybe a night clerk would see a man shivering and remember this story. Maybe they wouldn't be afraid to make the right call. He thought of Mr. Everett sometimes. Word got around that the hotel had issued a formal apology, changed management, and signed on to the Winter Response Partnership. Marcus never reached out. He didn't need to. The work spoke for itself. Before he left that night, Marcus walked past the wall where the foundation displayed the names of key contributors. Among the plaques and portraits, there was a framed photo, just a still from the video that had started it all. In it, Marcus knelt beside Frank, offering a cup of coffee with both hands. No spotlight, no cameras, just a moment of quiet courage. At the bottom of the frame were 5 words: "Compassion doesn't need permission." And this time, the world had listened. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.